Excited to welcome Jim Nagy back to the show, Executive Director of the Reese's Senior Bowl. Jim, thanks for coming on, and I've got to imagine you had a great weekend, but you had a big, deep breath on Sunday when you woke up.
Oh, I was too tired to breathe. No, it was an awesome week, man. Thanks for having me back on. It was cool getting everyone over from Baton Rouge. Those guys came over and did the show live. That was a lot of fun. And man, how cool is it to see big old Lloyd in that 18 on game day?
Hey, I've got to say that was outstanding that y'all found a way to get that done because my man Lloyd Cushenberry, he's an LSU historian. Like if you ask him anything about LSU, like he can give you exactly who it was, when they did it, the jersey number they had on. And so for him, and I talked to him, like for him to wear that number and finally get a chance, it meant a lot to him. So I appreciate you making that happen for Lloyd there.
No, gosh, that's so cool that you say that about him being kind of a historian because we loved him over here. Our staff, obviously spent the week with him, and he was really one of everyone's favorite guys, and we had a great group. I mean, this year's class was unbelievable. I think there's this misperception out there of what some of these guys are, and man, we didn't have a problem with one single kid the whole week. They were all humble and grateful and cooperative. It was an awesome week. But Lloyd was one of the best. But you don't get that anymore. You don't get a lot of guys, in this generation that are real true football historians. So that's really cool. He did that, and it was just awesome. I know what 18 means at LSU, and to get the big guy out there on game day was pretty special.
Now, Jim, I know that all the LSU guys did great, but it seemed like Lloyd and Damian Lewis, the interior offensive lineman, had a really nice week. From everyone that I talked to, they say they stood out, obviously on and off the field with the meetings as well. Damian Lewis is a guy that, look, has an interesting story. No offers out of high school, goes to JUCO there in Mississippi, and really was an unspoken star for LSU the last two seasons.
Yeah, and I think that I think Damian, where he's going to run into not trouble, but he only fits a certain scheme. He's not a zone team guy. He's more of a gap power team, and but those teams that run that kind of scheme, like the team I just came from to this job, Seattle, he's a perfect fit. They just want to line up with guys like DJ Fluker and big, massive guys and move you off the ball, and Damian definitely fits that. So yeah, he had a real nice week. Lloyd had a great week. I mean, his arms. I'm looking at all the. I'm finally getting a chance to sit down and cruise over all the measurements from the week. And Lloyd's arms were 34 and 5/8, which I haven't seen a center with almost 35-inch arms. I don't know ever. I don't know how you get around a center that's that long. So he had a great week. And then Stephon Sullivan had a really nice week, especially I want to say it was the Wednesday practice. He had a really good practice. You and I both talked about it, off the air that's how good LSU is. That Sullivan, there were games where he barely got on the field and kind of buried on that bench, and here he is going to be a draft pick. He's just such a big target, fluid and smooth, and you just put it up to him. So he had a great week as well. And then Blake Ferguson, there's not too many snappers drafted every year. There's usually one or two, and I think Blake's going to get drafted. I talked to him after the game, and he felt really good about how he played in the game. So great week for all those guys.
Visiting with Jim Nagy, the Senior Bowl Executive Director. Jim, as Senior Bowl week goes, is this an opportunity? I mean, for players to move up and to get recognized even more so than say the combine? Like, do pro teams put more value in this week than any other workout of the off season?
Yeah, I mean, I think they are now, and I'm not trying to sound self-serving. I do think that I know personally I was a part of teams looking back at some of the draft picks that we missed on. It was because of a couple things. One, we missed on the person. We didn't figure out the guy right. And then the second part was another thing was we put too much stock in what was happening in shorts the rest of the process. So I really think teams are reassessing that over the last 3 or 4 years and really going back to football. And that's why I think our numbers really spiked last year. I know we've talked about it on your airwaves quite a bit, but having 37% of the draft drafted out of our game last year and the 10 first rounders, I think teams they have a better feeling for these guys. The hard part through the process, even the combine, you don't get a lot of time with the players, whereas down here, they're here for a week. And I always try to put myself in a GM's chair. And when you go to take that name off the board and you've got to look at your owner in the eye and tell the owner you're going to invest millions of dollars of his money on a certain player, you just feel better when you've spent time around these players. And this week, as you know from being in the game years ago, you get a ton of exposure to the NFL, to the scouts and the coaches, and they get a better feel for you. So, I think all these guys help themselves both on the field and off the field.
Jim, I know that every single year you try to get some quarterbacks in there. They're going to be the top guys, and y'all actually, since y'all have taken the game over, done a really nice job of that. And this year, Justin Herbert, Jordan Love, I mean, these are some names we could hear very early in round number one. Does it always kind of lift the excitement when you know you've got quarterbacks? Because, look, as much as it pains me as a tailback to say it, quarterback is the most important position on the football field. So does it make the game just a little bit sweeter when you've got guys that are going to be top picks like that at that position?
It does. And coming from my scouting background, I mean, I get as excited about safeties and fullbacks as I do quarterbacks. But the thing that I've learned since being in this role is that, the quarterbacks do drive the needle. I mean, obviously, I think everyone's cognizant of that. But doing work last spring at ESPN leading up to the draft, and I'm going to start assuming that role again here pretty soon. I felt like last year all we talked about was Dwayne Haskins and Kyler Murray and Daniel Jones and Drew Lock for 2 months every day. But that's what people want to see. And I know that the folks at the NFL Network who carry our game, we're really excited about getting Herbert and Love and Jalen Hurts because, like you said, I mean, that kind of drives the bus.
You mentioned Jordan Love, and that name has popped here locally. There's been some boards that show that the New Orleans Saints were really high on him. What did you see from him and your perspective and takeaway from him after the week?
Yeah, the hardest part for me in this role is that I don't get to watch a lot of what's going on the field during the week because my phone is always buzzing. We lost 13 players in practice this year. Nothing major, kind of minor stuff, tweaks and stuff like that. So I'm constantly churning the roster during the week and just don't have a lot of time to focus on it. I'm trying to spend a lot of time walking around the field, reconnecting with GMs and head coaches and personnel directors and guys that help us throughout the fall. So I really didn't get a chance to focus too much on Jordan other than just to watch him, watch some of the throws he was making and going back to the evaluation over the summer and seeing him at the Manning camp. He has all the stuff that you can't coach, and that's what these guys are looking for. He's big, he's athletic, he's got a strong arm, and he's got a really natural stroke. He can, he can put it where he wants to put it. And again, I think we talked about it in the fall before they came in to play LSU. He just was pressing too much. He really felt the weight of the first round expectations. I think, and I didn't get a chance to talk to Jordan about that when he was in town, but that's just kind of what it seemed like watching the tape. He was trying to force the issue a little bit, not letting the game come to him. But he's a really, really bright kid. I do know that from speaking with him and meeting with his mom. He comes from a great home. She's a police officer out in California in Bakersfield, and so he comes from a great home. And he's got a lot going for him. So if the Saints are looking for that succession plan, to move on from Drew Brees at some point, which they're inevitably going to have to do. Jordan is a guy that I think can be that kind of starter that you can win a lot of games with.
Also here, my former team, the Chargers, actually really like Love as well. Hey, Jim, before we let you go, I want to know the schedule now. Now that everything's over, and I know how much work you put into this. You mentioned the Manning Passing Academy. I mean, that was way back in the summer, and you're looking at guys for the Senior Bowl already. So now that it's finished, we're a couple days away from the game. Do you take a break? What's the next step for the Senior Bowl?
Well, we're wrapping up everything for this year's game. The reason we're able to pull this thing off is we've got a committee of volunteers of almost 400 people. So we're getting together with the committee chairs. We're going to go over their different. It's practice security and it's transportation, the guys that drive the players around. We have all those kind of exit meetings, try to tighten everything up, make sure we're in a good spot for next year, things we can improve. Also the support staff, all the managers of the teams and trainers, and just trying to square that up. And we'll start. We'll take a little bit of break next week, the next couple of weeks, and really recharge the batteries because it's a 3-ring circus. We had all the different events this year, from the Revivalist concert to the Mardi Gras parade, and all the different things we had going on during the week. So we'll get away a little bit, and we'll come back, and we'll start watching tape on next year's class on March 1st.
Did not know the Revivalist concert was a thing. I'm mad that they sent the morning show now and not me, Jim.
Love the Revivalist.
It packed downtown Mobile. I mean, it was awesome. They are an incredible live band. I don't know if you've seen them, but they blew it out. They blew it out in the Mardi Gras parade. That was the one thing the players, they loved it. So like I stopped after I got done. I was with Coach Sylvester Kroom in a car, and we were throwing all sorts of beads and footballs and stuff. And when we got done, I stopped and we did the players marched in the parade. They weren't on a float, but they marched by position group. And I stopped every single player, thanked them for doing that for the city of Mobile and what it means to them. And they're like, Jim, are you kidding? This was the best part of the week. They had you can see pictures online. I mean, they were loving it. So it was a fun time. Yeah, wish we would have had you over for, Jacob.
All right, there he is, Jim Nagy. In my opinion, they've taken the Senior Bowl to another level. Continued success, my man. I know we'll catch up soon.
All right, brother. Thanks, man.
All right, there he is, Jim Nagy. You can tell, man. He's like, woo, we got one in the books, baby. It's there's a lot of work.
Can you imagine? I mean, like he talked about, you get 13 guys go down with injury, and you got to find somebody that's available.
And not
get
only
on a plane now,
find somebody, but find somebody worthy of that game.
Right.
Because it's an honor to be able to play in that game. I mean, guys wait for that invitation all season long. And it's a small group because it can only be seniors or guys who are juniors who are graduated, like Lloyd Cushenberry. So you got to be able to, have the right to play in the Senior Bowl. So great job by Jim. I do truly think that he's taken that to a all new level.